Okay, welcome to this week's Fife Property Update. This is the weekly property market, looking at overall throughout the Fife Property and what's actually listed in the week in terms of the regional presence and actually what's actually sold as well in the same particular week. Again, this all goes down to supply and demand, where we are right now in terms of all the estate agents right across Fife and in terms of supply and demand. There's a good indication about where the market's going, about if there's an oversupply like before, or we actually got a stabilised market, or is there a boom coming again? So, let's go over these numbers and let's have a look at them right now. I'm going to be talking about what's actually sold this week as well, quite a lot actually, and what they went for, and there seems to be a lot more activity in this market right now as well. So possibly, if you are thinking about selling, probably now's the time to go. After I've discussed all the things about the Bank of England Governor Andrew Bailey and what he said as well about inflation and also base rates as well. Let's talk about that in a minute. Okay, let's look at the Fife property market right across Fife. Again, as I said, this shows you in the areas, region by region, how many properties are actually coming on, how many sold in that same period. So last week in the Cooper area, 4 properties actually came on, 5 actually sold. So demand is outstripping supply. East Neuk 8 came on, 4 actually sold. So, East Neuk's actually quite buoyant anyway. So 1 week doesn't make a trend. St Andrews 6 versus 3, that's not surprising. Levenmouth 11 versus 11. Dunfermline 34 versus 43. Demand clearly outstripping supply in Dunfermline. Glenrothes is 19 versus 19. Kirkcaldy 22 versus 22. So even Stevens in a lot of the areas. Now, that's a stark difference in reality in terms of where the market was before Christmas into October, November, December, where oversupplies were coming in right in, and there was loads of properties getting dumped into the market. Therefore, prices were actually stabilising as a result. Could we see the return of the boom? Watch this space. Let me talk about the Bank of England Governor, Andrew Bailey, actually said yesterday, or was it today? He announced that he expects base rate rises to stabilise somewhat in order to calm the market after the Liz Truss debacle. That's still going on, and the ramifications for that. They reckon base rates have another 1% to 1.5% to go, so they should level out round about the 4.5% level over the period of this year. Their target in terms of inflation and the government is to get inflation down to half that amount. Now they see inflation in terms of energy prices coming down, so that should contribute to it. And also as well as prices actually stabilising and that beginning to peter off, hence the reason why it's going to bring that down. That's where they see inflation primarily. So it's kind of good news to say that the government has a realistic target of hitting inflation by the end of the year, around about 5 or 6%. The Bank of England doesn't expect base rates to move any more than 1 to 1.5% over the year, and then into year 2024, actually, they think base rates will begin to come down as well. It all depends on where the economic situation. There is factors outside our control, but also it depends on things like wage negotiations, what happens in other countries as well, knock-on effect of supply and demand in terms of imports and exports on a macro economic level as well. So that overall, I think it's stable market in terms of the housing market. We're going to look at some statistics as well about the number of UK properties actually sold, number of UK properties actually listed, fall throughs, reductions in prices, and I'm going to look at them just towards the end of this as well. So hang on for that. Couple of articles I actually we did yesterday. How to become a landlord, top tips to building a portfolio of 5 or more buy-to-let properties. Richard and I spoke about that yesterday in a podcast and also in a live show. There is a post on here as well for a 4-minute read if you want to read that. The link is on here on this post itself if you want to get some insight into how to become a landlord and what is the benefits and what's the downside of actually becoming a landlord as well. The other one as well I did this week in the midweek was the Scottish and Fife house price statistics for November 2022. Land Registry actually released the Fife and UK and Scottish house prices. That's the ones I always go on. I really don't take full stock of things like the Nationwide releasing prices, the Halifax releasing their prices, and telling us prices have actually gone down until the UK house prices come out of the Office of National Statistics. That is the full compilation rather than just what it is in isolation to people like, for example, the Halifax, the Nationwide. It gives a good indication in terms of what they do, but they're primarily they're only talking about their customers, and because they're big mortgage lenders, they tend to have a good handle on that. But in some occasions, they don't get it absolutely right. So Fife house prices are actually holding up quite well. It is taking a wee bit longer to sell, so patience is the word. If you think you're putting your house in the market, don't expect it to go within a few weeks. It will take on average round about 8 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks to actually get an offer on a property and actually get it over the line. This is a lot to do with as well as people have houses to sell. So you could actually get an offer maybe within a couple of weeks, but in order to actually get that offer over the line and confirmed, that person has to sell a house. Therefore, it's not really an offer until they've sold their house, and possibly the person buying their house is in a position to proceed. In other words, they don't have a house to sell either, and they're maybe a first-time buyer with a mortgage in principle. It's important when you have your estate agent do that is to look down that chain and qualify everything of that process. Now, every other estate agent should be doing that, but unfortunately that doesn't happen. And we've seen that this week where we've had 2 occasions where we've had to find out from the other estate agent selling on behalf of the buyer that's buying our property from our seller, and find out their position, and then subsequently find out the position after that or before that, so we know what's happening right through the chain, so we can say to our client, that's the position. Should we be saying yes or should we be saying no? So it's important actually you get your estate agent to do that and follow that right down. Now as I said, we've fallen foul of that, and we've realised that some of the estate agents are not doing that at all. So it's taking us several days to actually find out that information for our sellers. So it's just one to be aware of to make sure you can progress chase your estate agent and they understand the ramifications of getting an offer and actually pre-qualifying the buyer before they actually walk through your door to view your property. That's the most important thing. If they're not in a position to proceed, why have you got them walking through the door at this point in time? That's probably things to think about in terms of that. Okay, let's talk about what's actually sold in the week. So sold over the line. You'll be probably quite surprised this week, but I'm kind of not surprised the way it's going right now in terms of activity, because there's less properties actually coming into the market. See, overall there, 104 came onto market in Fife in the week, 107 sold. So again, demand is slightly outstripping supply. Therefore, the number of properties available for sale through Fife is actually beginning to drop rather than actually go up now. They're under 1,000. They're around about 950 at this point in time. Okay, let's go on to what's actually been sold. So this week, 19th 4th Street in St Mons was sold. That was sold in 4 weeks, a 2-bedroom terraced house, and that was listed at offers worth 325,000. So that was away within 4 weeks. So it shows you for the right property, sometimes it will sell in the right time frame. Veronica Crescent, Kirkcaldy. It never even made it to a website. It was sold on social media. It was a 3-bedroom semi-detached house, and the seller got an offer. It was listed at offers over 120,000, and they got an offer they could not refuse. Does that sound familiar from last year? An offer they could not refuse before it even got to a website. There was loads of people after this property, but someone was in a position to proceed. This is the most important thing. Still make sure you're in a position to proceed, because if your dream home comes on, you're probably not going to get it, because other people like this person bought this one, has actually made sure they're in a position to proceed, and they jumped in straight away, made the offer the seller can't refuse, and it is theirs. It is a cracking home inside, and there's no surprise it actually went within before it even got to a website, and it went on social media. Over the line again, and I will say again, Miller Terrace in St Mons, this was originally sold, and then circumstances changed for the buyer. Therefore, it came back onto the market, and from the beginning to now, it took 8 weeks to sell. So therefore, it took a couple of months, which is actually the average time to sell a property. This was offers over 300,000. It was listed at a 3-bedroom terraced house. It was an absolute cracking house. If you've seen the video walkthrough and also the drone footage about where it is in proximity to everything, you'll realise that it was actually a great family home for someone to get. And the next one we've actually sold this week, past, is South Crofton Links Road in Leven. This is away now. This was offers over 400,000, and this took 4 months to sell. It took a unique amount of time to get the right buyer with the right circumstances to match the seller's circumstances to get it over the line. So it can take a lot longer. This is what I'm saying about it's taking an average of 6 to 8 weeks. That means, for example, Veronica Crescent sells before it even gets to a website. This one sells in 4 months. The average is, guess what? 2 months. 6 to 8 weeks. There you go. That's how it balances it out. So this one's over the line as well. So again, the most important thing, I could tell everybody, just be patient. Your estate agent knows what they're doing. It will take time. It's a bit of a different market than it was at the beginning of last year, but the numbers are still the same, and I'll talk about that in a minute in terms of transactions, in terms of sales overall right throughout the UK. This is a way as well. This was actually taken off another estate agent, actually, and we sold that in 7 weeks. So 3-bedroom detached house. It was on, it offers over 235,000. It is now away. This is St Andrews Road in Largo Ward. And this is one of the ones that we had to qualify the chain all the way down to make sure everybody was in the right position to proceed and it could go ahead and we could put sold on the property. That is the most important thing. There was there was possibly 2 or 3 people in that chain. We had to track all the way down to make sure everybody was qualified in that process to make sure this could go ahead. That's the most important thing your estate agent can do for you, as I said. The next one as well, Furfafield in Fruchie. This was sold, again, 4 months. This took a 3-bedroom semi-detached bungalow, and this was listed. It offers over £167,500, and that is now away. 4 months to sell. So, again, the message is be patient. It will happen. You only need one person. Remember, and I'll tell everybody this, it's about 20 people in Fife every single day make a decision to buy and sell a house. If your house is not selling right now, it's possible that even tomorrow, that buyer could be in the market looking for a house exactly like yours. So it's just about patience. It's a wee bit of a different market. It's a stabilized market, and it's just a waiting game at this point in time. It might not happen every single day for you. It might not be activity every single day, but patience is the key. And this one took a wee bit of patience. And as I said, it was away within the 4-month period, 3-bedroom semi-detached bungalow over the line, done and dusted. Now, wealth patient Joe. No, let me talk about statistics. This is UK statistics coming up next. Now, this is actually quite important. This was my friend Chris and Lee. They put together some statistics for me, and actually we discussed this, and they did this a live show on this. This was the national new instructions average listing price. So you can see year on year from 2016, 2017 at the bottom there, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, the average and new instruction average listing price. And this is in week 2 of the new year. So this is week 2. This is just in the week. The average listing price across the UK was 420,000 as opposed to last year. It was 385,000 at the same period, 353,000. So you can see how that price is actually going up. So interestingly enough, though, the average national asking price of sales agreed, in other words, over the line, was different. Look at that, 420,000 of coming on, and then 334,000 actually getting agreed. Now, that doesn't mean to say the ones at 420 are actually going down to 334. That means really that's the average price actually getting sold. So that's the average price point people are buying property at. So that's the average price point people are listing property at in the week. And that's the average price point that people are buying property at. So you can see there, if you've got a property round about that price, that's the average price that they're buying it at. But look at it in comparison to the other years. Kind of similar. 2021 was 320, 2022 it was 343, and 2023 it was 334. So kind of stable right across the 3 years. But you can see the jump from 2020, how that jumped up for the pandemic. And then everybody just piled in and started buying like crazy. And then prices start to realign throughout the UK and come to their natural price point about where they were. I always believed in 2019, 2018, the prices were due to be realigned to the right price because the number of the average price to the average salary was very, very low. And that's why I suspected that property prices were actually going to increase dramatically. And hence the reason why it went into lockdown. Everybody else says that the price market was going to crash. And I said, I cannot see a crash. I potentially see a boom coming. And this is what's happened out of this. Okay, so let's look at the national new instructions listing for week 2. Now you can see over the year 2016, see how that's very, very low, the number of instructions coming on, and then it goes up and up and up. Now this is the health. This tells you the health of the property market. So the health of the property market, in other words, how healthy is a property market? It's not really about price, it's the number of transactions, because the number of transactions actually leads people, the more houses or the same amount of houses that are sold is the same amount of businesses that then put new kitchens and new bathrooms and decorate and carpeted. That's why you want to have the same amount of transactions, because there's still business getting done, and there's a lot of jobs actually created as a result of the house sale that's going on. So that's why you don't want the number of house sale transactions to drop. You want actually to stay quite stable. The price is not the most important point here, because the price allows you to move from one property to the next. If your house goes up by 10% next year, the house that you're buying is going up by 10% anyway. If your house goes down by 10% next year or this year, your house you're buying goes down by 10% as well. The only point of having your own house is actually to keep you stabilised in the property market, so you can upgrade and downgrade without any potential price swings. That's the reason why you have a property, and actually to live in as you go from day to day. It's not to make money on, but it keeps you on the property ladder. Not having a house obviously leaves you open to the a market going up and you missing out on that and having to pay more, market going down and you possibly gaining on that and having to pay less. But that's a gamble to a degree. So that's why people have houses. That's why we have house ownership and home ownership, for that very reason. The number of transactions is probably the most important point here. It keeps a really good economy going, because if you have, for example, so you can see out the years, 2019, 28,000 properties actually sold in the week right across the UK, 26,000, 26,000, 26,000 and 25,000. So slightly dropped, but still quite a healthy market. You can see in 2016, it was down at 15,000. Now, the credit crunch, it was down way below that as well. So you can see when you think about it, if there's on average maybe £20,000 spent on upgrading and improving a house when people buy it, if the number drops by 10,000, for example, from the 25 to the 15, there's 10,000 times 20,000 effectively being lost in terms of revenue getting spent in shops, revenue getting spent with small businesses, revenue getting spent. So all these jobs are affected as a result of that. It's hence the reason why we want to keep a nice, stable market in terms of the number of property transactions. And that's actually quite a healthy graph right there. That is a really good sign. I'm very optimistic about that. So national new instructions, the 4-week rolling average, in other words, the last 4 weeks on average, is about 18,000 properties actually newly instructed. This week just passed, it's sitting at 25,000. So there's a lot more properties actually coming into the market from the last 4 weeks. You can compare that with the national average asking price of price changes. You can see there where the price changes have actually done as well from year to year at the same period, and where all these price changes have had. So you can see there, that's 398. If you jump back, and I'll see if I can catch the other one, the original, 398, 420 versus 420 coming on. So you can see the price changes that are actually happening. Now, the thing is coming lower, but that's because, the reason for this is because the way the English market works, which is mostly about 10 times more of the housing stock than we've got in Scotland. The way the housing market in England works is the estate agents set the price. In other words, they aim for the stars. And then the expectation is from the expectation of the buyer is they're going to pay under that price. And because it's set on what they think the market value, the end result will be. The other side, the flip side, is the other way around in Scotland, because we have home reports. And home reports are the valuation done by a surveyor, which is based on historical information. So it's based on the prices of properties that have actually just passed. It's not based on the true market value. That's the difference. So therefore, in Scotland, we tend to pay over the asking price because it's the home report value. It's a historical figure. And that's why we tend to pay more over the home report value than what England does. But this is why this chart shows overall that actually the prices, the asking prices and the price changes in that week have actually dramatically changed from what the price getting put on the market. Hopefully that makes sense. We've got two different markets for that reason. The national price change over the 4-week rolling average, and you can see there in terms of the number of properties, is actually 12,000 over the 4-week rolling average every week, but it's actually 16,000 properties have actually changed their price in the last week. So 16,000 properties. Now, there's more than 16,000 on the market, way more. So it is a small proportion of that, but it is quite a substantial compared to the last 4 weeks. The national number of price changes in week 2 over the years, you can see there, 8,000 in 2016. So, and then you had, again, 2022, 7,910. Now, in 2022, everybody was saying, there's no way I'm changing my price. It's you're paying that price or nothing. And that's because it was a really buoyant market. But you can see how it's dramatically increased the 1 year later to double the amount of properties actually changing the price. Now, when you change the price, you generally go down. So there's about effectively 100% more than there was last year in the same week of the number of people actually changing their price and reviewing their price. Now, let me talk about price reviews. For anybody out there sitting saying, I'm no decreasing my price because I want this amount of money and that's all. A price realignment is what you call it, or what we call it. It's not a price reduction really, it's a price realignment. So for example, if your house is on right now at 420,000, for example, to just pluck a figure out there, and your house isn't getting the activity it should be getting, then generally generally you know that in the first 5 to 6 weeks. You have to wait a wee bit of time to monitor that, because not everybody just piles in at the beginning now. Some people take a wee bit of time to think about it because they've got a house to sell and they've got mortgage to arrange first of all, and then inquire. So it usually takes between 5 and 6 weeks. But the most important thing out of that is when you have a price realignment because you think maybe I'm not getting the activity I do, you're really reducing the offers over starting price. Now, when you reduce the offers over starting price, you introduce your property to probably a new audience. For example, if you're sitting at 420, I've reduced to 400,000, but I've actually reduced to 390 before. So this is a realignment we did for a customer. They were on at 420. They weren't really getting the activity they should be getting. And I said, look, do you trust me? Do you take a leap of faith? Do you understand what I'm trying to tell you? I said, I would bring it down to 390,000. Now, they were mortified. I'm not giving £30,000 off my property just like that. I went, well, you're not. I'm not asking you to give £30,000 off. I'm asking you to introduce it to a new audience by bringing it below the 400,000 mark, because you'll get that audience are searching up to 400,000. Now, we know that everybody generally has another 10% over and above what they're actually searching up to in their budget to buy a house. So another 10% takes you up to 440. So we actually did that, and she took a leap of faith with us. We reduced it to 390,000, and we ended up getting 430,000, and it's sold. And that's the point. And that happens all the time. That's a very, very unique strategy, which if implemented correctly, you could actually get more than what you originally had it in the first place, just by actually realigning the price. So it's actually quite an important strategy, which is used as one of the tools and mechanisms if some of the other things don't work in the beginning. Price realignment. So if you want more information on that, please feel free to contact us on that, because not everybody gets that straight away. They automatically think, well, actually, you're giving more away, but I've just actually demonstrated to you where I've actually brought it down by £30,000 to actually push it up by £40,000 when somebody got through the door, because I introduced it to a new audience. They actually saw it, came through the door and went, wow, this is the property for me. I'm ready. And because we qualified them, we knew what their budget was, we were able to push them back up to that figure. That's what an estate agent, that's what a really good estate agent does. That is a really good strategy to have sometimes when you're just not getting the people through the door you need to get in order to get it over the line. If you're under pressure, that's another strategy to do. If you put yourself under pressure because maybe you've committed to another house straight away and you need to sell your house and you've put yourself in that position, I'd never advise anybody to put themselves under pressure. I'd advise yourself to put your house on the market first and see where it takes you first. And then you don't need to sell your house straight away. You can get your estate agent to agree the right entry dates with someone in order to make sure you have enough time potentially to get somewhere else. Now, the longest entry date we've had agreed with a client is 12 months. Yep. Concluded missives, 10,000 non-refundable deposit, and 12 months of an entry date. They were happy to wait because we waited for the right buyer. Now, that maybe took about 6 weeks instead of the normal 2 or 3 weeks we took to get that, but we actually got the right buyer and actually qualified them and actually did that deal for the client. That can be done quite easily, and that allows plenty of time then for you to then go and find your next property and without putting yourself under pressure. The other flip side of that is if you end up waiting till the last minute and put it on and it doesn't sell in the time that you think it's going to sell, then you really put yourself between a rock and a hard place. And that puts you under immense stress. It is not good at all. So that's why it's a really good strategy to consider putting your house on now with a view to getting the right person through the door to get the right entry date. You've got nothing to lose by doing that, because the reality is, if you've not got your house on at all, you're not selling it anyway. So get the right person to actually buy it. Wait. It's a waiting game and being patient. That's what it's all about. Anyway, let's talk about back to statistics. Let's talk about statistics here. Number of price changes, and I'm briefly going over the number of price changes. So it's gone up 100% since last year, right across the whole UK. Remember, this isn't just Fife. There's no 16,000 houses on the market in Fife. Okay, and then the net sales, that's the gross sales less fall throughs. So that's the net sales in week 2, which is 10,000. So you can see that how that's changed over the years. So 2016 was 6,000. Then you're going up to about 11, 12, 13, 19. That's the net sales. So everybody went crazy and started buying. 16, it dropped down to 2022, and it's back to a stabilization point 2018, between 2018 and 2016 time. In order, the net sales less the fall throughs. So again, quite a stable market. National number of sales fallen through in week 2. So the national number of sales fallen through in week 2, that's the national number of sales fallen through. In other words, they were due to conclude. Again, this comes back to saying, let me just explain this. The fall throughs happen a lot in England because they don't have concluded missives. They don't have commitment. They don't have the same legal system. It backs that up. In other words, when an offer and acceptance happens, the deal is done, the property is off the market, no one else can view, and that's how the Law Society in Scotland work in terms of what they do. In England, it's completely different. It's still a free-for-all, and people can come in and gazump each other, in other words, outbid each other to get the property, plus the fact sometimes somebody in England that makes an offer, the offer's not really worth the paper it's printed on. And that's how they tolerate that type of system. In our system in Scotland, we've got a more watertight, robust system, which is actually far superior to the English system. Hence the reason why you get these huge numbers. So it's not as dramatic in Scotland, but it is right across the UK, remember. So this is a reflection of what's going on and giving us a good indication about where the markets are, because they all have a knock-on effect to each other. And finally, this is Lee's 34% fewer net sales going to estate agents pipelines in 2023 than 2022. Well, that's 34% maybe overall for the Scotland, but in England and in Scotland over the UK, but in Scotland itself, you can see that it sits at 11%. That means the Scottish market is extremely healthy in comparison, because again, I go back to the number of transactions happening. That's what that was all about. So the number of transactions is only 11% down on the year before, which isn't a huge swing in terms of the numbers, and therefore it keeps a stable market, it keeps a good economy, it keeps contractors in a job, it keeps local retailers in business as well, because money getting spent that way as well. So overall, a very, very healthy market in terms of the Scottish market, in terms of the Fife property market. But I think the key message out of this is patience. It will happen. That's the key message here. Okay, finally, look forward to seeing some of you on for the Wealth Creation Show tomorrow. I will be streaming live on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, and my public profile, my personal profile on the Wealth Creation Show, talking about my last journey, about my journey on episode 10 to my first million. I'll also touch on how to lose $1 million as well. And that will be probably the next episode. So that will be quite an interesting one to do. But often you learn more lessons from your failures than you do from your successes. And that will stand you in good stead for later on. So you don't need to learn the lesson and do it all yourself again. I could probably tell you where the failures were for me in that show as well. And then you can just learn from that and not do them. It'll make it a lot easier and a lot quicker for you to do this in terms of your wealth creation, in terms of your buy-to-let portfolio, in terms of your property investment strategies as well. And that's it, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed that, and hopefully you got some information out of that. Feel free to comment on it. Feel free to share it as well. If you want to private message us, we will be doing a workshop this week on Thursday night at 7 o'clock, a private workshop for investors. There will only be 6 places available. 3 of them are actually secured already with people that have been with us, and we will take people every single month on their journey to create wealth if that's what they want to do. If you want to be included in that, Richard's details, Richard Cook's actual email address is on this post. You can email Richard direct and ask to be included in that. Once that spot is gone, you have secured it and no one else can get it. The only way you can lose it is if you don't turn up 1 month for that last Thursday in the month at 7 o'clock, and then it's allocated to the next person waiting in line. So there's another 3 slots available. Well, they might be available because they might be away by now because Richard sent out his email today to all the investors that we've got. But if you're listening out there and you want to get involved in our wealth creation on the private Zoom session for 6 people to take them through that journey for their property investment strategies on this Thursday at 7 o'clock, touch base with Richard probably right now, and I would get that space filled. Okay, that's me, and I'll see you tomorrow on the Wealth Creation Show at 12:30. Bye-bye for now.